Hi, I'm Bonnie from Academic Technology, as you all probably know. Today we're talking about your very first Zoom session, intro to your Zoom account, everything from how to activate it from the beginning to creating meetings and joining meetings and using the tools as a participant. The next session that we offer is on hosting Zoom meetings. So that will go into more depth on using the host controls and using sharing your screen and breakout rooms and things like that. So to start with, if you have a brand new Zoom account, I recommend you go to AU Direct and you go to the remote teaching guide. And on the Zoom page, there's a link to the Zoom login and setup guide. This is a one-time only thing to start. Make sure that you set up your Antioch account so that you can host meetings at antioch.edu, whether you have an outside account as well or not. It's pretty straightforward, but there's a couple of places to see specifically what to do. So you'll see in the screenshots, it asks you to go to Zoom in AU Direct and then click the sign in button. And then instead of signing in up here, if you haven't done that before, sign in with Google down here. If it's your first time, it'll ask you for your birth date. And that's because we have a list of employees with their email addresses and their birth dates in a database, and that confirms you are who you say you are, so Zoom can actually create your account for you. If it doesn't ask your birth date, then you're probably already set up, and all you have to do is click your Antioch account if you have multiple accounts listed here. As you see, I have a bunch of different Gmail accounts, and it says, which of your accounts do you want to log in with? This is the only one I have a Zoom account with, so that's the one I'll select. And it logs you into your main screen. If you can get to this main screen, and if in your profile up here it says your email address at antioch.edu, then you are signed in to your Antioch account. If not, you can click this. So let's just say it went to my bjp@gmail.com Zoom account. All you'd have to do is sign out, and it would bring you back to the sign in page. And then you would sign in with Google, or you would sign in with the email address, and making sure to pick the email address that you wanted. That's how you manage to sign in and sign in with multiple accounts in the Zoom website. Now, when you've downloaded the Zoom client, and let me just hide that, and you have your client open on your desktop, it's very similar. I have mine turn on every time I start Windows, and it signs me in if it remembers, or else it asks me to sign in. You can see I'm signed in because my profile picture is up here, and it says bpowers@antioch.edu, so I know I'm signed in correctly. This desktop client sign-in will override your web sign-in. So if you're hosting a meeting, come into here before you start your meeting and make sure you're signed in with the account for the person that you want to be the host of. If you're hosting an Antioch meeting, sign into your Antioch account. If you're hosting one of your personal or other professional Zoom meetings, sign out and sign into that account here on your desktop. Then when you do that, under your meetings pane, it'll show you all the meetings that you have set up. And to start a meeting, what I did when I started this meeting today is click on the meeting and click start. This way I know I will be the host when I join the meeting. So you'll see when I got into my meeting, I checked before everybody got here to make sure that I had the word host next to my name in the participants tab. And that means I have all the controls for the whole meeting and I don't have to worry about it. Laura, if you have multiple accounts and you come in here without the word host, it may mean you had logged in as the wrong account and you're actually just a participant in here. You'll see Kim is not logged in as anybody. She is logged in as a guest. Zoom doesn't know who she is. she hasn't logged in with her Antioch account to this meeting, and I have a setting turned on that shows me when people are a guest. Otherwise, if you don't have that setting turned on, you'll see everybody looks like either host, co-host, or nothing. Okay, so questions about any of that? Go ahead.
How do you get the desktop version?
Okay, so the easiest way to get the desktop version is to, well, there's a number of ways. So you can go to support in the upper right corner. And when you go to support, I just search for download client or download even. It'll always that's interesting. I guess they've renamed it Quick Start Guide for new users. You can come in here and download the Zoom client.
Okay.
It's also on that green page when you click from AU Direct to Zoom, download the client. Here's another.
Oh, okay. Great.
There's that button for it, and it brings you, this is the one I'm most familiar with. So you'll see the most recent client is version 5.1.2. And surprisingly, mine has not auto updated, and that's okay because as long as you have a version of 5, you're all set.
So I've downloaded Zoom to my computer. Is that the same thing?
That is, yes, that's the desktop software.
Okay.
For your computer. So you'll see if you need to check your version in your Zoom window, up here in this shield, when you click it, it shows you what version you have. Okay. It also gets you to all of the other settings for Zoom that you can go through and set if you want to in your Zoom meeting settings, not your global settings, which I'll show you in a minute.
Okay, thanks.
So I know that my Zoom's a little out of date, and I'm going to go here and check for updates. This is on my client, and it's going to tell me, oh, there's a new update available. The download will resume when your meeting ends. You can't download an update while you're in an active meeting. But every once in a while, go check and make sure you have the latest version. Supposedly we're set to auto update, but something is not actually asking me to update when I get out of a meeting. It's making me go check for updates each time. So, and that's fine. You don't have to do it every day now that we're through the worst of the security issues with Zoom. Okay, so that's their download center. Did you have another question, Susan? Okay. Okay. All right, so when you're in Zoom, you also have these global settings over here, and we have a whole training session on how to set them because it's several pages long here. We have a set of defaults that are very useful. They're applied to everybody's account, so you shouldn't have to worry about it. But if you ever struggle with something like you don't have the polling button or you don't have the breakout room button and you are the host, it may mean that it wasn't turned on in your global settings before your meeting started. So, but this is where you can come and say, do you want to turn on the sound when people come in and out of your meeting by default? So I can look for the sound. Sound notifications when someone joins or leave. I have that turned on by default. You can also choose who can hear it. Everyone can hear it or just the host and co-host. I usually just leave it on host and co-host. You can find out if your breakout rooms are on. And they should be just a blue button and turned on. And you can find out if you've allowed yourself to set up breakout rooms in advance and things like that. We go through these setting by setting in the Zoom settings and security session, which we'll do another time. But a couple of the first things you need to know how to do is how to create a meeting. Now, everyone has a personal meeting room. It's an ID, it's your Zoom ID essentially. This is always, I made a custom URL out of mine instead of just /490-356-4225. We don't really recommend that people use the personal meeting room, and here's why. You end up giving out that room to a bunch of people, and there are no real good settings. So you can not enable join before host. That means they can't use it when you're not around. But once you've given that out, you can't take it away. Whereas if you make a regular meeting, which has its own brand new ID, if there's ever any problem with that meeting, you can just delete it and it no longer exists. So if you were getting spam or Zoom bombers in that meeting ID, you can just easily get rid of a meeting. You can't easily get rid of your personal meeting room number. So we do recommend you create a meeting. My favorite kind of meeting is a no fixed time meeting. So like my office hours, I just simply create a recurring meeting and I change the recurrence to no fixed time. This just means it's always available all the time. So I have one where it's my personal meeting that I've set up that I use when I want to do a one-on-one with people. And then I have my other meeting that I do all my workshops in, so that my workshop invites always have the same link. But they're all at different times on different days, and I don't want to have to schedule an individual Zoom meeting for every session that I'm going to go to. So I just have a few meetings with recurring, no fixed time. I don't use a password as my first line of protection. I do enable the waiting room as my first line of protection. So this means I can join my meeting ahead of time, leave the waiting room on, and everybody gets stuck in the waiting room if they aren't logged in. So because I have my settings, there are 2 settings for your enable waiting room. So that's my first line of defense against Zoom bombers or people who shouldn't be in my meeting. And I've never needed it, knock on wood, but I do like to pick at least one line of defense for your meeting. If you prefer a password, great. If you prefer enabling your waiting room and not enabling join before host, that's another way to protect your meeting in a very easy way that doesn't seem to interfere with participants who just are supposed to be in your meeting. It doesn't make it difficult. In formal meetings, I choose mute participant upon entry. If I have 50 people coming into my meeting, I don't want them to all come in with their garble or, well, we're talking now. I'd like them to be muted if they came in the middle, so that we wouldn't hear them shuffling their papers and hitting their keyboard and whatever while we're in the middle of talking. And that's another sort of line of like audio defense. how not to have your meeting interrupted by unnecessary audio interference. And it's as easily as simply hitting save, as you know. And it shows you both the meeting link, which you can just email to people. It gives you an invitation that you can copy into an email to email people. Or if you want to schedule a meeting and put it on someone's calendar, you can click the Google Calendar event, tell it which calendar you want to use, give it permission to put something on your calendar, and then it creates an event. And sometimes if that doesn't happen on the first try, because I haven't done this today yet. It's having trouble. Maybe did I click the wrong email address? This may be user error here. So when I'm in my meeting information. It's bringing me to my personal calendar because I think I clicked the wrong calendar. So if I had clicked the right calendar, I'll just do another meeting. If I wanted to invite someone to this meeting. I just told it to use the wrong calendar, so it's not happy with me. Usually it would create an event here. You could add the people you wanted added to that event, and then they'll get the invitation in their email that says, do you want to come to this event? Yes, no, or maybe. It puts the link and all that description in their description box, and then they have it on their calendar. Here we go. Just like that. And you could give this any name you wanted. So it is actually putting it on my calendar. It just didn't pop up for me. So I can delete these off my calendar now. So be sure you check the right calendar when you try to send your calendar via Google Mail. All right. Now, once you're in your meeting, you might be familiar with some of the controls. Across the bottom, you have, and I'll turn them off. So the participants pane. And you'll see that when you have a window open, sometimes you have a more button. And anything that's too big to fit on the menu gets collapsed into that more button. So as you're getting used to your interface, when I have it fully open on my screen, all my buttons fit except for breakout rooms. So if you can't find your breakout rooms button, make sure you go check this little more button. So here under your mute button, my favorite little tool is this test speaker and microphone. If you have people who are having trouble with their audio, tell them to go there first. That little tool will walk them through an exercise to play a sound. Can you hear it in your speakers, yes or no? And it toggles through all your different speakers that are available until you find the right one. And it does the same thing with your microphone, and that'll help people get connected. Also, you'll see there's that link to audio settings, and it pops up your settings dialog box. So if someone said to me, Bonnie, your microphone is a little loud. Is it a little loud? Would you guys like me to turn it down? Or is it okay? Yes, good. Lower, turn it up, turn it down. Okay. So I can adjust my microphone volume here, or I can use the auto adjust. You can also then flip through all of your other settings from in here. You'll see under the video, it says video settings, so it brings you to the video settings dialog box. My Zoom is hanging just a bit. There you go. And it brings you to the video panel. But if you wanted to get to any of these things during your meeting, you could use those settings links that are in either of those. Only the host will have this security tab. This will allow the host to lock the meeting or enable the waiting room, to allow participants or disallow participants from sharing screen or chatting. So if you're having a session and you don't want people to be chatting with each other during a part of your session, you can turn the chat off for a while, say while you're having a speaker. And then you can allow the chat to be used a little bit later. Same with share screen, or allowing them to rename themselves, allowing them to unmute themselves. It's also where you remove a participant if they're being disruptive, or where you report a participant to Zoom for bad behavior. You have your participants pane, which you guys have your participant list at the top. The host and co-hosts will always be first, and then typically they're alphabetical by the people's, whatever the first initial of their name is, however they have themselves named, unless someone raises their hand. Susan, do you know how to use the nonverbal feedback down here and raise your hand? You have to open your participants tab and tell me, is my screen share in the way? Because I can stop sharing for a minute. All right, so you'll see
My hand.
Susan has raised her hand and she went to the top of the list.
Oh.
Now, if the next person raises their hand, they will go underneath Susan. So as the host, I will know who raised their hand first, and I can simply go down in order of the people who raised their hand if I wanted to ask these questions chronologically by when people raise their hand. And people can unraise their hand, or if the host answers their question, the host can also lower their hand and do that. So you have all of these nonverbal feedback buttons that you can ask your students to use. If they struggle with getting their participants pane open while you're sharing, then you can open it in a little side box. Just giving them an extra few seconds to figure that out the first few times that you ask them. It really helps if, you know, you're trying to establish some norms in your class and you say, do you need me to go slower or go faster? Feel free to use your nonverbal feedback in there if I'm going too fast or too slow. Or if you feel like you really need a break or you have to run for a second, use your little coffee cup if you have to run away for a second, and we'll understand. You'll be right back or something like that. Or if you want to give, I agree, I disagree, or clapping feedback, you can use those. And then the host can come down here and clear them when you want them to go away so that you can ask another question. The yes and no buttons are really great because if you have 27 people in your class and you ask a yes or no question, right above here appears a count. So if everybody will open their participants menu and either check yes or no, I don't care which you check, you'll see that they count up the number of people who have selected that for you so that you don't have to scroll through your list and look. So I have 1 no and 1 yes right now. And I found that really helpful for getting a sense of where people are. Do you want me to start at the very beginning and do an introduction? Or should I skip ahead to today's topic? Yes or no? And then I get a count, and it helps give some feedback without having to go around the room with 27 people and hear them say their personal answer, because audio is a little slow switching between people. So anybody have any questions about the first 5? We skipped over polls. We won't really do polling in this one. Tools? Or Tanika, if there's anything you need me to back up to, just let me know. I see I have a question in chat. Okay. All right, so Tanika, you're all set? Okay. So a couple of more things that you should know or your students should know as participants. Participants can share their screen. Most people have that turned on by default, but the host can turn it off. So they might not have that share screen button if you've turned it off. To share a screen, you click on it and you have to select which screen you want to share. Up here will appear however many monitors you have and the whiteboard and maybe an iPhone or iPad. So I have 3 monitors and I'm currently sharing this screen right here. So that's the one I have selected. And then if you're going to be sharing video or audio, you need to click Share Computer Sound or Optimize Screen Sharing for a video clip if you're going to be sharing a video clip. And then you hit the Share button. Now, down here, this is the list of apps that you have open. Do I want to share Firefox, this window of Firefox? Do I want to share that window of Firefox? Do I want to share my text expander tool or my slideshow presentation? If you share something from down here, they won't see your desktop, but it's the only application they can see while you're sharing. They won't see anything else you do on top of it or beside it. So that's the difference between sharing one of your screens or sharing an application. If you don't want them to see your desktop because it's messy or something like that, then you can share the app down here. But if you're going to be switching from, I'm going to show you my PowerPoint and then I'm going to go to a web browser and then I want to open a Word document, you'll want to share something called Screen One, or if you have a Mac, it'll be called Desktop, not Screen. And that'll share your whole desktop so that you can switch between applications when you're sharing. And lastly, this is where you share the whiteboard, which I will share that instead. And a whiteboard is literally a whiteboard. I currently have the pencil tool, and I have an annotation toolbar. Tell me, can you guys see my annotation toolbar at the top of this blue screen? Or can you only see the rectangle of the whiteboard? Because I have different tools that I can draw on this whiteboard, or I could stamp a question mark. And now you as the participant, so this is what we're practicing today, how you can be a participant. At the top, you should say you are viewing the whiteboard. In view options, it says annotate. That will open up the annotation toolbar so that you can annotate this whiteboard with me. Okay. I can use my eraser and I can erase things. Has anybody got their annotation toolbar open? You can grab the draw menu. Okay, that might be Susan. You can draw arrows. You can draw shapes. You can just type text. All right. So this allows a bunch of people to write on one or draw on one location. And then as the host or any of you can save this diagram when you're done so that you have a copy of it. As the host, I have options to clear all of the drawings, to clear my drawings, or to clear all of the participants' drawings. If, for example, I wanted to get back to where we started. Now, the cool thing about this, and I'm going to stop this share, is you can use those annotation toolbars on any shared screen. So now if I share this screen, you all can go back and have your annotation toolbar turned on. And let's say I'm giving a presentation and I can say, if anybody has a question, please stamp a question mark next to what you're having a question about. All right. And so someone has a question about this little gray line, or someone has a question about why is it paused? Those drawing tools aren't just available on the whiteboard. You can put up a graph or a chart, and you can ask students to annotate the chart to show where they have a question or to show where they think, you say, where's the best quadrant that you want to be? Put a star or put your initial in that quadrant, and they can draw right on top of it. It doesn't affect your PowerPoint presentation or the graphic that you've shared or your Word document that you've shared. It just puts a layer of writing on top of it. And now if you save this, we're just saving a picture of this screen that's been annotated so you can go back and look at it later to see what your students answered. And those all land in your downloads folder in a Zoom folder, and they're grouped in folders by the date. So this Zoom meeting will have a folder. If I hit save, I'll have a folder that's created, show in folder, so that, and here's that folder. When I save this meeting, if I saved a chat from this meeting, or if I saved several screenshots from this meeting, they will all be in this folder named after this meeting that we're in. So that annotation toolbar, the students don't really know about it unless somebody has instructed them to use it. And I'd say, tell them how you want them to use it if you want to ask them to use it. And don't mention it if you don't want them to use it. It helps with the engagement. It helps people get really invested in the slide that you're showing or the presentation that you're doing. If they can interact in some way to highlight what they see as the most important thing on this slide for them, to give feedback saying that's a good point, if they can do a little thumbs up stamp or a heart stamp. Typically the heart stamp is what you use when you like an idea. You say, oh, that one's, you know, really important to me. But it really helps with the engagement without having everybody to break in via audio. All right, so I will stop that share. And now I want to pause for your questions. Anything about Zoom questions are open to you guys. Are there any other tools you want to see?
Sure.
Whatever's available?
Yeah, whatever's available. I mean,
Okay.
I appreciate what there's a lot of this stuff I didn't know, so I appreciate what you've done so far. Very clear.
Okay. So if you're speaking, there's a reactions button down at the bottom, and you'll see I'm going to give a thumbs up reaction. Somebody did this earlier. I think it was you, Susan. These reactions stay on your video for 5 seconds and then they go away. So if someone's speaking, without interrupting, you can give them support for their idea or clapping hands without interrupting via audio. Or, I mean, you can always do this. This always works if your video's turned on. But if it's not, those reactions are good. I've requested for Zoom to add more reactions. I don't think clapping hands and a thumbs up, first of all, they're not that different. And second of all, they're not that different. We need more options like be right back, or I disagree, or something like that. In fact, I'd like the blue raised hand to be under here, raising my hand, I have a question, because it's much easier to get to than the one in the participants tool. Go slower and go faster. Why not put those right out here on your reactions? There's also an interpretation tool that we've recently turned on. If you're teaching a class that has multilingual students and you want a Spanish interpreter in your English speaking class, you can assign your Spanish interpreter a channel, and you can assign yourself your native channel, let's say your English channel, and then the students can choose whether they want to hear what's being said in English or Spanish. So you could hire a work study student to do this. You could hire, if someone, for example, had an accommodation where they had an interpreter with them, you could let their interpreter and assign their interpreter to that language, and then anybody in your course could choose which audio channel to listen to. There's also live captioning. So you'll see I have closed captioning. And I can assign a participant in my course to type, or I can assign myself to type. Now, it's very hard to type your own words while you're talking and presenting, so I usually recommend assign a participant to type. But that could just be anybody in your class. If Tanika came in and she was going to be our live captioner, I'd assign her, and she would get a little box and she could type the captions. And there's a box. So if she made typos, she'd have time to change her typos. And when she hit enter, the caption would show on the screen, and we would all get a little pop-up right here that said captions are available. And you could turn them on or not turn them on, but at least they'd be available. So if you're talking about something that has a lot of vocabulary words that people might not understand, or if you have people who have a lot of distractions in the background, or their audio is not great, or your audio is not great. We have a faculty member in LA who has spent, because he's an audiophile, a lot of money on good quality microphones and audio, but something still goes wrong and his audio is choppy. So if he's going to have a real formal presentation, he's going to want a live captioner to caption it so that people don't struggle to listen to him until we get that problem fixed. Someone recently asked about this. You can hire a third-party service, and they generally charge by the minute. There are several that, let's see, closed caption. You can use a third-party closed captioning service. You give this person the API token so that when they come in, they'll be listening and they'll be typing, and they will caption your course. And then anybody who wants to see the captions, whether they are hard of hearing, it doesn't matter who they are, can choose to see captions in addition to hearing the audio. So again, it's one of those flexible options that helps people, even not just people with a disability. So I find showing videos in Zoom is a challenge because it can be choppy for some people. So I always turn on the closed captioning in a video. So at least if they can't hear well what is being spoken in the video, the closed captions across the bottom give them an extra way of being able to understand what's happening in the video, even if their internet connection's a little slow and that's what causes the choppiness or something like that. So there's a lot of accessibility, and I'll say universal design for learning type tools built into Zoom to accommodate the variable and the variability of learners that we have, especially in this strange online remote times where people are just learning it and just trying to get along. They do not have filters that say filter out background noise, although a good headset will filter out most background noise if things are going on in your home behind you. When my roommate's home on Wednesdays because it's her day off, I wear my headset all day. But when she's not here, I typically just unplug. Or if there are workmen in the house, or if there are a lot of cars going by and my dog is barking, my microphone, because it only captures what's close to it, will eliminate a lot of background noise and activity behind me. Or I could set up my desk like Susan has, where my screen is facing a corner, so there isn't a lot of distraction of things walking behind me or something like that. So there's some great tips on how to eliminate some distractions in Zoom. All right, so we've covered all the topics that I wanted to cover. Does anybody want to practice sharing their screen or practice breakout rooms or anything like that? Okay, so if you have any questions, please always email us at at@antioch.edu. Come to our other sessions. They're all listed on the remote teaching guide, which we have recently renamed the remote teaching guide instead of the emergency remote teaching guide, because we're out of the emergency phase and into the actively remote teaching phase. And you can find that in AU Direct.